for it.
Someday I'll be just like you!
Let's make magic.
They are bent to my command! Job's done. They are bent to my command!
Tonight, a tale of long-lost worlds.
Let's make magic.
We hunger for
Someday I'll
vengeance!
be just like you!
I have an axe to grind.
You require my assistance? Aha! Aha!
More souls!
make magic.
Why do
You know, the Dragon Ball fandom never ceases to amaze me. For the past few weeks, there have been tons of questions that have come up and speculation about what's going on in the new arc of Dragon Ball Super, the Future Trunks arc, and Goku Black and all these things. But the one question that's come up over and over and over and over again, just as much as any other question, is why is Trunks' hair blue? Well, guess what? On this video, I might have an answer for you. What I'm hoping to do here with this video is not only to debunk a lot of the fan rumors or theories that have been going around about Trunks' hair being blue in Dragon Ball Super, but also to hopefully get to the bottom of what's actually going on. When we all first learned that Future Trunks was coming back to Dragon Ball Super, a plethora of fans quickly took note of the fact that Trunks' hair was now blue instead of his traditional purple, and others presumed it was just a mistake made by the coloring department or the promotional department over at Toei, or maybe even a mistake by Toriyama himself. Because if you remember, when the Battle of Gods promotional art came out, Kid Trunks' hair was also blue. And then when it was animated, it was fixed and Trunks' hair was back to being purple. But that was not the case here, because when Dragon Ball Super episode 47 premiered, Future Trunks' hair was blue throughout the entire episode. This would lead to a number of new theories about why Trunks' hair was blue. Some folks thought he had achieved the God form, but that didn't make any sense because his hair was not spiked up and there was no aura around it. Others thought that perhaps he had dyed his hair as a tribute to his mother or something like that. And then the third one that I saw a lot of was the theory that because Trunks had aged, his hair had changed from purple to blue. Many people citing the fact that a lot of babies are born with blonde hair and then their hair darkens as they get older. Some fans actually went out of their way to validating this theory by stating that Bulma's hair was purple when she was younger and that as she got older it became blue. But that's not true at all. However, there is some confusion here, and it all traces back to the original run of the Dragon Ball manga within the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump. Now, although the original manga was primarily in black and white during the original print and in several reprints, in the original run and in subsequent re-releases, there were indeed colored chapters. And within the pages of these colored chapters, Bulma's hair was indeed purple. But in the anime, Toei decided to change her hair to blue for reasons that I honestly don't even remember if there even was a reason. Bulma's hair has never been purple whatsoever in the anime, with the exception of the 10th anniversary movie Dragon Ball Path to Power, where Toei decided to keep her hair purple, most likely as a tribute and a throwback to the original manga. But even though it was purple in the majority of the manga, there are still some pages where her hair is blue or even gray in some instances. But in the anime, it was never purple, except for Path to Power. So that theory's out the window. But then in the early 90s, when the time came to adapt Trunks into the Dragon Ball Z anime, for some reason, Toei decided to keep his hair purple. Which I guess some fans forgot, because I was reading some comments of people saying that they made Trunks' hair blue to match Bulma's because of the change that was made with her hair in Dragon Ball Super, but why would his hair be purple in Dragon Ball Z? Not to mention that in the flashbacks from Dragon Ball Super episode 47, his hair was purple there too. Now here's where it gets even stranger. In Dragon Ball Super episode 48, Bulma mentions that Future Trunks is a guy with blue hair, which was very strange because Bulma had not seen Trunks since he left Back to the Future at the end of the Cell arc, and back then his hair was still purple. So how could Bulma have known that Trunks' hair was blue before even seeing the guy? That kind of kills the whole Trunks dyed his hair blue theory. Just a few days before the episode premiered, we saw inconsistent promotional material where Trunks' hair from the future was purple again, and yet in the anime, it's back to being blue. The thing is, if you go back throughout the history of this character, Trunks' hair has never been consistent to begin with, and depending on the time has constantly flip-flopped from being blue and purple. If you take a look at some of the scans you see on your screen right now, you'll see that in some of the material, Trunks' hair was indeed blue even all the way back then. including this shot right here of Trunks giving Cell the middle finger. So there are numerous examples of Trunks' hair changing color throughout the years that a lot of fans forgot about. The biggest one to me was when Trunks was going to fight Cell, and I don't know why, to this day, it doesn't make sense, but for some reason his hair was red. Was Trunks the original god? No, he wasn't, but it's interesting that Toriyama drew him with red hair once. Now, thankfully, with the recent full color manga releases, everything inconsistent when it comes to Trunks' hair has actually been fixed. His base form is now purple, and his transform state is gold, which are the right colors. I've even had some people tell me that they think that Toei and Toriyama purposely made Future Trunks' hair blue and super so that fans wouldn't get confused between Future Trunks and Kid Trunks, even though they're like totally not the same height. I can't possibly fathom that anybody would confuse the two, but that's neither here nor there. So what's the real answer then? Well, to get the answer, not only do you have to go back and dig through the manga, but you also have to go back and dig through some Toriyama interviews that bring clarity. The first quote here is from Toriyama's super interview from 1995's Daizenshu number 1, where Toriyama says, "When I'm applying the color, I think it was more or less the color. However, with people that I've already drawn in color before, I generally do not go back and check, so sometimes I end up using different colors than I did before." Laughs. Now that was back in 1995, so let's look at a more recent example. The full color Frieza Arc Volume 4 interview with Toriyama from just 3 years ago. Toriyama says, and I quote, "I'm not particular with hairstyles and colors and paint them in however's convenient at the time." So the conclusion is, Trunks' hair has never been consistent, even from all the way back in the manga during its original run, even to this day. So because Trunks' hair has not been consistent, there's no mystery reason as to why Trunks' hair is blue, other than, well, it's another inconsistency. And what would Dragon Ball be without an inconsistency? So please spread this video out. Let's put the kibosh on this argument. You can sleep safely in your bed knowing that the reason why Trunks' hair is blue is because there is no reason. It's never been consistent. That's just the way it is. Have a great day.
I've come back from the future to warn you that if you don't subscribe to Geekdom 101, your future is grim.
After Dragon Ball Super episode 52 wrapped up, I've seen a lot of people this week talking about how Dragon Ball Super and Toriyama ruined Gohan's character and that Gohan is always going to be a nerd. But did Dragon Ball Super really ruin Gohan's character? Let's go back and take a real good look and let's figure out exactly what's going on. From the minute that he burst out of that space pod and headbutted his uncle, we knew that Gohan had a secret power inside of him tied to his emotions. Throughout his upbringing, we see numerous examples of Gohan tapping into his emotions and thus tapping into a hidden power, whether it be with his fights against Vegeta or his fight against Frieza or even the climactic battle with Cell. Unless Gohan was really, really angry, he almost always had issues fighting. In fact, when you really think about it, had it not been for Goku dying and the incoming threat of Vegeta and Nappa, he probably would never even be a fighter because Piccolo essentially kidnapped him against his will after seeing that hidden power, and he wanted to harness it to protect the Earth. Had these events never happened, Gohan would have probably just been a scholar like Chi-Chi wanted. Gohan's entire motivation for fighting has always been, down to its core, survival and protection of loved ones, which in many ways makes him a true alpha male. But the reality is, some people in the fan base think that Gohan should be just like Goku, but he's not. Goku and Gohan are two different characters. Gohan was thrust into battle out of necessity since he was a child. Meanwhile, Goku's entire upbringing as a kid, he loved to fight, he loved seeking out newer and greater challenges, he loved training with newer and better people and fighting the best that he could, which carried on into his adulthood. Go back to the fight with Nappa. Gohan continuously kept letting Piccolo down, and Piccolo had to die in order for Gohan to rage out and show some of that hidden power. Maybe it's because he's half human and he's not a pureblood like Goku and Vegeta, but Gohan never really liked to fight. In fact, there are only 3 or so examples that come to mind of Gohan actually enjoying the battle. The first one was that infamous scene in Wukong Hospital when Gohan actually yells at his mother for not allowing him to go to Planet Namek. But that's kind of an iffy one because I feel like Gohan was just trying to be responsible more so than just having to fight. Plus, he didn't know at the time that Namek was going to be filled with guys like Frieza, so he didn't even know there would be a battle. The biggest examples after this is when Gohan went SS2 against Cell and when he fought Super Buu. In both of those examples, Gohan actually took enjoyment in pummeling his opponent. In fact, he's kind of an idiot for doing so because he took so much enjoyment that both times it wound up backfiring on him. The first time with the loss of his father and Cell blowing himself up, and the second time with Buu absorbing Gotenks and then being too much for Gohan. I always saw these two examples as Gohan being so overwhelmed with this incredible power that he just wanted to mess around, and it's kind of a dumb thing to do. And to be honest, it is a little bit irritating that Gohan always has had these secret gifts, but he never really wants to use them, and that's the most infuriating part of Gohan's character. Without Piccolo and Goku giving this guy a swift kick in the ass, he dogs it. He slacks off, he doesn't really care about fighting, he doesn't have that fighting spirit and desire that some of the other characters had. Even though it's not explicitly stated, during the time before Mecha Frieza shows up, Gohan never trained, but what is stated is that during the 7-year time skip, after Cell and before Buu, we know for a fact that Gohan slacks off and was surpassed by others. Without a possible looming threat on the horizon and Piccolo and Goku not there to motivate him and train him, Gohan just doesn't care. If you look at the very end of the manga, which does still take place after Super despite the inconsistencies, Gohan is a full nerd. From the end of the Buu saga and into the events of Dragon Ball Super, Gohan was never really motivated to fight. Daddy was back to life, he was the strongest guy with Vegeta, and any kind of threat that would come around, he wouldn't have to worry because Daddy would take care of it. During Dragon Ball Super's retelling of the events of Resurrection F, in the anime, Piccolo dies and Gohan is once again motivated to train. But all of a sudden, when the time comes for the Universe 6 tournament and Goku and Vegeta invite him to come, he's the only guy who can't make it because he's going to attend some kind of conference. Even though his wife is the daughter of the richest athlete in the world, Gohan sees fit to go back on what he said at the end of Resurrection F, going back on what he said and skipping out on a perfect opportunity to train with Goku, Vegeta, and the rest of those guys for this tournament. Gohan could have trained for this tournament and become ridiculously stronger. Vegeta himself even says that Gohan has the most potential out of all of them. But once again, he squanders it like he always has. Now, don't get it twisted. I do genuinely like Gohan as a character. He is a badass, but for different reasons. He's not a bloodthirsty fighter. He only fights when he has to, which I think is a very admirable, realistic human trait, and he sure as hell is a better family man than Goku. But this idea that Gohan is always supposed to be a bloodthirsty fighter just like his father, Gohan was never like that except for 2 or 3 times. Gohan being happier being a husband and father makes perfect sense with his character, because the reality is, had none of these threats happened in Dragon Ball Z, Gohan would have always been a nerd, and really, this is just life course correcting itself and Gohan being what he was always destined to be. I suppose in universe you could blame Chi-Chi for all this, but by now Gohan's a grown-ass man, fully capable of making his own decisions, and he is choosing to be a family man over fighting. If Trunks saw it at the end of Dragon Ball Super episode 52, everybody else should. One more thing before I go. There is a popular fan misconception that Toriyama had always intended for Gohan to be the main character, and that because of pressure from the fan base, he changed his mind and went back to Goku. This is 100% false. Toriyama has never once said this in any single legitimate interview he's ever done. The only comment he's ever made is that he felt that Gohan was not fit to be the main character and that Goku was more fit for it. And to be honest, it kind of makes sense, but there was absolutely no fan influence on Toriyama's decision. In fact, Toriyama has constantly said that he likes to do the opposite of what people think he's going to do. So the fans have had zero say in any decision Toriyama's ever made when it came to Gohan. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it was enlightening for you. Please share it out. Don't forget to subscribe to Geekdom 101 for more content like this. And just remember, if you're a Gohan fan, he's still a badass. He's just a different kind of badass from his father and from Vegeta. Thank you again. I'll catch you down the road. Despite all the other videos I've made about Gohan, so many Gohan fans want this guy to come back into prominence again, and you know what? I kind of respect that. I mean, honestly, I really do, because I understand you wanting your favorite character to get more attention because it makes perfect sense. I mean, why wouldn't you? And I've seen a lot of other people state that, well, Gohan's going to be a family man, let's just leave it at that. So even though there might be some truth to that statement, I still think that with good writing and with some pretty unique and creative ideas that actually reflect on Gohan's character, I think there is a possibility that Gohan might come back into prominence again. So on this video, I'm joined by Mike from Laughingstock Media as we discuss the various ways to get Gohan back into prominence. With some creative writing and a little bit of brainstorming, we can come up with some ideas to make Gohan matter again. And of course, in the comments section, I want to hear yours as well once the video's over. Definitely give us your thoughts, but for now, let's go ahead and get to the discussion.
I've come back from the future to warn you that if you don't subscribe to Geekdom 101, your future is grim.
Dragon Ball Super has pretty much telegraphed us, at least for the time it's been on the air, that it's Goku and Vegeta with a bunch of new characters. You know, the gods, of course, are going to be involved. We have some Universe 6 guys, but Gohan, a very popular character, has been left in the dust. And on this video, I want to talk about coming up with some creative ways to kind of make him relevant again. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it all has to do with like good writing and really, you know, kind of thinking about what to do. Because the problem with Gohan is that in the Buu arc, for example, they made him relevant again by him attaining some kind of power-up from the old Kai. And a lot of folks felt that was kind of cheating how he skipped ahead. I don't know if it was, but we had to come up with something better. So joining me on this video, the community's most vocal Gohan fanboy, Mike from Laughingstock Media.
Hey guys, Mike here from Laughingstock Media, and Gohan is the best.
Alright, well, the thing about Gohan, like my idea behind making Gohan relevant again, has to do with his family. We know that Gohan is a family man. He loves Videl, he loves Pan, of course, his family. And I feel like one way to really get Gohan's, you know, motor running again, I guess the death of Piccolo during the Resurrection F TV arc wasn't enough, even though we all thought it was, is for something. I don't really want to see Pan die. I think that's too much, but I do think the idea of his family being threatened, I think, is a good idea, a solid idea, and I think that it's, you know, I think it's the best way. What do you think?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the thing that they've really established and kind of hit home for us recently in Dragon Ball Super is that Gohan values his family over everything. Like, the whole reason, supposedly, why Gohan turned down the job that he went to the whole, the conference for instead of, going to the tournament was because he didn't want to be away from his family. So,
except for the fact that his family was at the tournament.
Exactly. So, ultimately, it seems like Gohan's family is his main driving motivator, and protecting the ones that Gohan loves has always kind of been his motivator. So if they were under threat, or if something was related to them, I feel like Gohan would be a little bit more willing to step into the action to support them and to protect them.
No, I agree, and I think that, again, I've talked about this before, I think that him training with Piccolo is kind of a bad idea. It's pointless because I think Gohan is actually stronger than Piccolo. I really do think so. Just a little bit of training. Yeah, he should be. He's way stronger. I think Gohan needs to, like, get away from his family and request training from Whis or from one of the gods. And I just feel like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Gohan had the most potential, but now that we've been introduced to, like, Kaba, I think Kabe might have the most potential. I mean, he was going for Vegeta at his base.
Yeah, he's a tailless prodigy Saiyan, you know, as Akira Toriyama had said at one point years ago. I believe he had stated that, or it was in the Daizenshuu, that these tailless Saiyans are these prodigies. So I guess that's kind of what they were trying to convey a little bit, if anyone remembered that Kaba had so much potential because he was tailless in that case. And maybe he does have more potential than Gohan. I mean, look how strong he was against Vegeta.
I don't even remember when they said that. When did they say that about tailless?
I believe it was in the Daizenshuu.
Wait, how can it be the Daizenshuu if Kaba's a new character?
Well, no, I mean, it's kind of like how with, you know, Old Kai and the Sword, they had said that years ago in a Toriyama interview, and then it appeared in Super. So it's possible Toei was going through the old guidebooks and they looked at that interview or they looked at that tidbit and they said, okay, let's, you know, bring it back. Obviously, Toriyama did reread the manga for this.
Yes, well, that's what we hear, but we don't know for sure.
He thinks he was rereading Yu Yu Hakusho and he's like, oh wow, I didn't know I was this good of a writer.
Right? No.
Mr. Satan wants you to subscribe to Geekdom 101